Adam Schiff just laid down a brutal reality check. Trump's DOJ nominees keep claiming they'll never be pressured. But Schiff reminded everyone it's not about if they'll be tested, it's when. Watch how Schiff turns polite questioning into a quiet demolition of political denial, and why his warning cuts to the heart of American justice.
Time, sir.
Yeah, tragic. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Senator Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dubra, first of all, thank you for taking the time to meet with my staff. I appreciate that. I served in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles. I was also in the public corruption, government fraud section, prosecuted corrupt government officials, fraud cases, an espionage case against a FBI agent who spied for the Russians. In all the time I was in the office for about 6 years, so considerably less time than you were. But nevertheless, never had any political figure contact me to tell me you should bring a case against so-and-so, or you should refrain from bringing a case against so-and-so. Never had that experience, and I worked predominantly under Republican attorney generals until I think the end of my tenure in the U.S. attorneys. Was that your experience as well? Did you ever have a political figure tell you who you should prosecute, or that you should refrain from prosecuting someone?
Senator, I enjoyed the meeting with your staff yesterday. I see them behind you. We had a great discussion. I thank you for that opportunity to be in your office. And the answer to your question is no. Nobody's ever told me to prosecute a specific person or not to prosecute a specific person.
And how would you handle a circumstance where someone did tell you to prosecute someone, or that conversely you should drop a case against someone for political reasons?
Those who are responsible for my nomination, sir, I'm confident that they know my background. I'm confident that they know I've never done that and will never do it. And I'm confident that they know that I will only follow the facts as applied to the law. As I said before to Ranking Member Durbin's question, any kind of public corruption investigation, and you know this from your 6 years in the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Central District of California, there has to be predication. You can't just investigate somebody to investigate somebody. There has to be specific and articulable facts that predicate an investigation. And I've evaluated that even to start an investigation and worked hand in hand with the FBI when I've done my local public corruption cases, my state-based public corruption cases, and the nationwide public corruption cases that I've investigated. If you don't have it, you don't start it.
You know, Mr. I heard you make a similar response to Senator Durbin in terms of you don't think you'll be put in that position. And it calls to mind a conversation I had with Mr. Blanche prior to his confirmation, when I think he expressed the same view, I'm not going to be put in that position. And we've heard that from any number of nominees in this administration. I don't expect I'll ever be put in the position that you're describing, and yet they almost all have. I'm grateful for your optimism, but I think it probably is only a matter of time before you're put in that position. And as my colleagues have indicated, I think the question is how will you respond when you are put in that position, not whether it will ever come up. So let me ask you this. Ever since Watergate, there has been a strong norm guardrail that has maintained the independence of the Justice Department from pressure from the White House. This was part of the post-Watergate reforms. And it served our country remarkably well in insulating the department from political pressure. Presidents over the course of years have set general policies. I want to see more prosecution of drug cases, or I want to see more prosecution of corruption cases, or I want to see more prosecution of illegal immigration cases. But since Watergate and until now, we have not seen a White House identify individuals they want prosecuted. This goes beyond anything I think we saw during Watergate. So let me ask you as a general matter, what is your view of the desirability, I think necessity, of maintaining the independence of the Justice Department from political pressure emanating from the White House?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I look forward to, of course, my direct report will be Deputy Attorney Blanche, who you mentioned. And I've had multiple interactions with him. I believe he's doing a great job. And I look forward to working with him to do what we've always done. He was an AUSA in the Southern District of New York, just like you, just like me. And I really don't believe I'll be put in that division. When you look at the components of the criminal division and what we do, these are nationwide impact cases for all Americans. Should I be tasked with evaluating a public corruption case like you're talking about, whatever that case may be, I can assure you I will do it how I've always done it, and that will be based on the facts and the law and the independent decisions of the Justice Department to make those charging decisions, and that's exactly how I'll operate, sir.
Well, Mr. Duva, I appreciate what I would describe as the triumph of hope over experience in your testimony, but I hope your experience is commensurate with your hope, but I fear it will be otherwise, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, congratulations.
Adam Schiff just did something most senators don't. He took a routine confirmation exchange and turned it into a civics tutorial and a warning. The nominee's line, "I don't expect I'll ever be put in that position," sounds hopeful on the surface. But Schiff pushed back, not to be cynical for the sake of it. He pushed back because the history and the structure of our system show that the question isn't hypothetical. Since Watergate, the United States built legal and cultural guardrails specifically to stop presidents from turning the Department of Justice into a political hammer. Those reforms created independent mechanisms, special counsels, transparency rules, ethics offices, aimed at keeping decisions about whom to prosecute rooted in facts and law, not in political directives. Saying "I've never been told to prosecute someone and I don't think I'll ever be put in that position" is not an answer that reassures. It's a wish. The more useful answer, and the one the country deserves, would be a concrete explanation of how you would resist that pressure when it comes, what internal practices you will insist on, how you will document and escalate demands, who you will consult, and what public transparency you will seek if political actors try to interfere. Schiff isn't asking for melodrama, he's asking for operational commitments that preserve the rule of law in practice, not just in theory. That's exactly what the post-Watergate architecture was meant to prevent. There are two separate but related problems at play. First is the formal legal structure, laws and internal DOJ rules that define predication for investigations, the standards for opening a probe, and the role of career prosecutors in making charging decisions. These aren't trivia, they're the scaffolding that prevents one official's political preference from becoming a criminal docket. The nominee repeatedly emphasized predication, which matters, but the real test arrives when someone at the top asks for a deviation from those standards. Will the nominee insist on written predication, on career prosecutors' independence, and on refusing orders that lack factual support? If he can't say yes plainly and show how he'll do it, that's a red flag. Scholarly and policy analyses since Watergate underlie how vital those standards are to preserving impartial justice. The second problem is cultural, norms and expectations that once kept politics at arm's length. Norms are fragile. They survive only so long as office holders treat them as binding. Adam Schiff's warning about hope versus experience is really a human observation about how people behave under pressure. Even honest, well-intentioned officials can drift if the culture around them rewards loyalty over law. That drift is exactly what watchdogs, journalists, and courts have been flagging in recent years, a pattern of appointments, firings, and public pronouncements that erode confidence in impartial enforcement. When institutional norms fray, the legal scaffolding can still function, but it becomes harder to rely on. That's why Schiff's line matters. He wants to know whether this nominee understands both the law and the culture he's stepping into, and whether he will act to shore both up. So what should the nominee have said? First, a clear operational commitment. If a political actor pressures me to open, close, or target an investigation without predication, I will require a written request, I will refer it to career leaders, and if it persists, I will report it to the Inspector General and make a public record. Second, a promise to protect career prosecutors from retaliation for following facts and law. Third, a pledge to support transparency where possible, for example, contemporaneous documentation of decisions in politically sensitive cases. These aren't theatrical promises, they are practical procedures that preserve both the rule of law and public trust. Policy experts and legal historians point to the same kinds of mechanisms as the practical outworkings of the post-Watergate reforms. For viewers trying to make sense of this, here's the takeaway. Confirmations are not just about a nominee's resume. They are also stress tests of character and of institutional defense plans. Schiff's line, "I fear your experience will be otherwise," is less an accusation of personal malice than a prediction based on institutional patterns. Pressure will come, and the public needs to know how nominees plan to resist it. If a nominee can't move beyond optimistic denials and into concrete safeguards, that's when the Senate needs to push harder, and when civic pressure, media coverage, oversight, public records requests matters most. If you want to hold power to account, don't let polite answers suffice. Demand specific commitments and documented practices that protect the independence of justice. And then track whether those commitments are honored. That's how a democracy makes sure laws are not turned into tools of political revenge. If you found this breakdown helpful, like the video, share it with someone who cares about the rule of law, and subscribe to Left Lens. We'll keep following these hearings and show you not just what happened, but why it matters and what to watch for next.